I recently uploaded a video showing the making of these wardrobes, which we did in vinyl wrap finishes with melamine internals. Now, interestingly, in the room next door in the same house was a very similar looking installation. It was white, it was shaker style doors, but it had been made in solid wood and it had been painted. So I thought it was a great opportunity to compare and contrast the pros and cons of each method, because we can offer both methods, and customers are often a bit confused about the relative benefits. So excuse the background noise, I'm just in my second office, which is Costa Coffee. If I don't do this now, the photos will get lost in the mists of time and I'll never get around to it. So let's begin with the materials. So the project that you're looking at, which we just installed, the materials used were melamine for the carcasses. That's all the internal parts apart from the drawers. Now, melamine is a factory-made finish. It's a sort of plastic paper laminate over a chipboard core. The externals were all made from vinyl wrap, so that has a similar appearance, but it's more seamless. It sort of curves around the edges and can follow the contours of a shape. Now, the core material of the doors is a high-density MDF, so that's all factory machined and then effectively shrink-wrapped in this vinyl finish. So the first limitation of that approach is there's only a set range of colours, a fairly wide range, and there's also wood grain effects. Whereas if you go for painted, you can have any colour because it can be mixed to match. To talk about the advantages, though, of starting with that vinyl wrapped finish on the doors, it's very seamless and really quite pristine, and it's quite hard to get a handmade door with a painted finish quite so perfect, and it's certainly more costly to do so. Having said that, with a vinyl wrapped door, there's a pre-applied melamine face on the back, and only the front and the edges are wrapped in the vinyl, so there is a bit of a join, a bit of a seam around the rear arris, the rear edge, which is the giveaway that something's vinyl wrapped. So going back to the internal carcasses, so I said that they were melamine over a chipboard core. Most wardrobe carcasses, even fairly high-end ones, are chipboard core. Now, some people might hear chipboard and think that sounds cheap. It's actually very fit for purpose, and that melamine finish is very tough, very easy to clean. It has a lot of benefits. If you look at the painted wardrobe in the same house, the internal carcass was oak veneer. The core of that is actually MDF, so it's still a man-made board. And in my personal opinion, an oak veneered carcass is not really any more fit for purpose. In some ways it's less fit for purpose than melamine, because that veneer really needs to have multiple layers of wood finish applied for it to be smooth and non-porous. And in this particular example, I don't know if it even had a finish applied, because that's another big cost. So the costs just ramp up with that approach, whereas melamine is cheaper and does just have a lot of advantages. Let's talk now about the way that the doors are mounted, the hinges that are used. With the solid wood painted example that we've been looking at, the hinges were traditional butt hinges, so you can see them there. They're fitted into what's called a mortise. That's a chopped out recess in the edge of the door, and then screwed to a face frame. So the construction requires that there's a face frame which the doors sit flush within. Now, some customers prefer this look. It's a more traditional look. You certainly see it on a lot of high-end traditional kitchens. It requires skillful joinery to get the doors fitting with perfect gaps within the frame. The downsides of this method are that the doors require a catch to hold them closed, and that catch usually has a bit of a click to it when it's open and when it's closed, as you can hear here. And in my opinion, it's nice to have a bedroom where everything works softly and smoothly. You may have a partner still sleeping and you want to open doors. It's perhaps a minor consideration, but I think the way the furniture feels in use is quite important. So the alternative method of hinging the doors is what's called a cup hinge or a concealed hinge. You might also hear it called a sprung hinge. It's concealed in the sense that when the doors are closed you don't see a knuckle. When they're open you do of course see this bit of ironmongery. Some people don't like to see that, matter of preference. The advantages of the cup hinge are that you don't require a catch to hold the doors closed because the hinge itself has an integrated spring. The modern ones which we fit also have an integrated soft close mechanism, so that as the door nears the closing position it pulls itself closed and it softens that closing action, so you get a very soft, quiet closing action. I didn't take a video of the doors soft closing, however it's the same principle that you can see on the drawer boxes here. We're using concealed undermount runners. It's quite a high spec of drawer runner. You don't see much of the ironmongery, it's hidden below the box. The drawer boxes here are birch plywood. It's a very strong material that's suitable for the stresses that a drawer's under being pulled in and out. The joints are very strong. An alternative is to use oak dovetail drawer boxes, and those are the ones that were used in the other project, the hand painted project, and that's a very strong, very high quality drawer box. We can fit that in any type of project. It's also just worth mentioning on the hinges again that the concealed cup hinge is perfectly suitable to be fitted on solid wood doors. However, you wouldn't fit a traditional butt hinge on a melamine, on an MDF door, a vinyl wrap door, because the nature of the material is such that the way the screws would enter it, they wouldn't grab so well in the edge there. But a vinyl wrap door can be very strongly fixed on a cup hinge. There's just one main final point that I want to make about the materials for the doors. Now, many people would favour solid wood for reasons that I quite understand. However, you need to realise that wood is very prone to moving. It's a hygroscopic material, which means that as it takes up and releases moisture with changes in humidity in the room, it is prone to warping according to the natural grain of the pieces of wood from which the door is assembled. Now, you overcome that by using high quality timber and by making the door as thick as you can to be more stable. That all has cost implications. If you use a man-made board such as MDF, and you can get MDF in very high quality grades, it can be harder than many woods that are used for doors. For example, the wood used in the traditional example we've been looking at was a radiata pine, a knot-free pine. That is actually a softer material than the MDF which we use to make doors. So you go for an MDF door and it is much more liable to remain flat and stable once it's fitted. So for me, the sweet spot in terms of material and finishes, when customers want the variety of finishes, any colour mixed, but don't want the issues involved in solid wood, the sweet spot is for us to make the doors out of MDF, and we would make them 22mm thick, which is that little bit thicker than the 18mm which would be standard for the vinyl wrap door style. So we can make them, hand finish them and spray them, as I said, to any colour. For customers looking for a quicker turnaround, I would recommend the vinyl wrap. Also, possibly a more pristine, seamless finish is available with the vinyl wrap. The cost implications are quite similar, really, because I'm buying in components that are manufactured for me for the vinyl wrap doors, whereas I'm manufacturing from raw materials for the doors that we make and paint. So it can tend to even out, really, cost-wise. But as I say, the sweet spot really between the traditionally made approach with any paint colour versus the more machine-made approach, I would say, is a 22mm manufactured MDF door with a spray painted finish on concealed soft close hinges for that nice smooth feel, with a melamine carcass, which I should point out is available in a whole range of colours and wood finishes as well, and you'll find some other examples of colours across my social media and my websites. I hope that's all been helpful, and I do welcome any comments as always. Thanks for watching.